Hey guys, it's Kay from KS Anonymous, and today I am bringing you some Reddit posts from r/PettyRevenge. Back in college, I lived in this on-campus apartment that was separated from the rest of the campus. Parking was very limited over there, which leads to many issues. Early on in the year, there was this one girl with a shiny new BMW that mommy and daddy just bought her, who thought she was entitled to take up multiple spots when she parked, no matter how packed the parking lot was. One day when I saw her in the act, I asked her to move her car over so that I can take the spot next to her. She immediately snapped back, saying, "Mind your own freaking business, I can park however I want." Not wanting to cause any issues, I drove away. The next day, I saw her car parked the same way and saw my opportunity. My car was older and already beat up, so I didn't care too much about the condition of it. I got out, folded my mirror in, and pulled into the spot next to her. I stayed within the lines but got so close that she couldn't open up the driver door. A few minutes later, my roommate, who drives a massive truck and knew about what happened, sends me a picture. He had parked so close to her on the other side that now none of the doors could be opened. We then waited until she came out to her car. We could see the cars from our apartment, and boy did she throw a tantrum. The only thing funnier was watching her climb through the trunk to get into her car. After that, she made sure to never double park again. Now I can kind of understand why people double park or whatever, or park like further out when they have something they don't want to damage, but when there's not a lot of parking, it can be really frustrating, and her attitude was pretty rude, so pretty good petty revenge. So in the 7th grade, I missed a lot of school due to medical and mental issues. That being said, all of my teachers were understanding, except one. I'm not going to lie, I don't actually remember her real name, so we'll call her Ms. Bitter, MB, my 7th grade English teacher. I'm sure most of you remember or are still having to do accelerated reading, or AR. If not, basically the school gave all students a test to see what reading level they're on, what book ranges they can read, and how many points one would need to get to pass English. It would tell you to check out books, and each book had a point system on it. This was the amount of points you receive after finishing the book and then taking a 10-question quiz to make sure you read it. I always scored 12 plus, so I could read anything I wanted. Not the point, but moving on. Well, every English class was required to allow students 30 minutes to read their AR books. They had to be AR books specifically. If it had no points, you couldn't read it during that time block. They were also required to take the class to the library once a week to check out new books or take quizzes. Being sick and absent so much, I didn't get to go to the library often, so I was always having to go to the library before or after school to do my stuff. I didn't have the best home life, so it was hard for me to go early or stay later. Well, many times I went to class, I either didn't have a book or I had a book, but it wasn't an AR book. MB would go around and check every dang book, every day, to make sure we were doing what we were supposed to. If you didn't have it, she'd give you a warning. 3 warnings and you get detention. Needless to say, this happened to me. I was furious because MB literally had a bookshelf full of AR books in her class that no one was allowed to read if we forgot our book or didn't have it because reasons like me. MB chastised me in front of the class and even scolded me for being absent too much. She made me cry more than once. Edit, I don't understand 2 things. 1, why she hated me, and 2, why she wouldn't let anyone use her godforsaken books on her bookshelf. Your guess is as good as mine. After months of this, I decided to be petty because I was sick of her picking on me. At this point, she basically just expected me to not have my approved book. So I went into her room one morning while she wasn't there, because she had bus duty, and wrote down about 5 to 10 AR books on her personal bookshelf that she wouldn't let us use. Again, still not sure why. Then I hid them behind all the other books. After that, I went to the library during that precious hour lunch period to start my revenge. I checked out about 4 or 5 copies of the books on that shelf. I couldn't check out any more than that. Next day, I come in and we get to the point of silent reading. Here we go. I pull out one of the books I had duplicated and begin to read. MB starts making her rounds to check the books. I was sitting there hoping so bad that she would do what I thought she'd do. She gets to me, I don't look at her, and I can see in my peripheral vision that she's looking very hard at my book. Silently, I observe her walk directly over to her bookshelf and begin to look for what I assume was the book she thought I took so I wouldn't get in trouble again. I could see the anger in her face when she couldn't find it. MB walks fast over to me, and with her everlasting need to torture and embarrass me, she grabs my book pretty forcibly and starts accusing me of taking a book without permission, and that I would be getting another warning and detention for stealing from her. I just sat there calmly letting her finish. Then I said, "MB, that book is from the library, not your bookshelf. You're mistaken." She disagrees again and starts to head to her desk for the write-up. I turn and I say, "Would you please look on the inside? It clearly shows where it belongs, to the library with the checkout list and everything. Has my name right on it." She did, thinking she would get me for lying too. Well, I saw her face get bright red and slowly comes over to give it back. She didn't apologize or anything. In fact, I think it made her hate me more. I was vindicated, but this wasn't enough for me. Day after day, I'd bring another duplicate book, and each time she would stomp over to her shelf, not finding her copy, looking at me with 7 hells fury. Each time, I'd show her the library stamp when she'd approach to accuse me again. This went on for about 2 weeks. I honestly think I made her feel crazy and so irritated that she couldn't pin anything on me. I also came in again one day in the morning and put all her books back in place as if they were there all along. I got my AR points by just reading the duplicate books and passed with an A. I still don't know why she hated me so much, but for about 2 weeks, I enjoyed watching her crumble every day and not being able to punish me for anything. Not the most elaborate of petty revenges, but I loved it. I don't know why English teachers do that. We'd get told that kind of stuff too. Like, if you didn't bring your book, they have like a bookshelf of books, but they're like, you can't read them. Okay. We did have like one teacher that would let us read them, but we had to make sure to like put them back in class, which that makes sense. So for a bit of background, I grew up in a place where we have 2 main languages. The native language is almost dead in my area of the country, but I was educated fully in that language and am bilingual. I also don't have the accent of a native speaker due to the area I was raised in. This has led to a few funny situations where I've overheard something that I was not meant to understand, but this time was definitely the best. So one day I was in a cafe, and after placing my order, I was quite surprised and happy to hear that the server and one of the customers were speaking that language together. I was, however, less happy once I heard what they were saying. They basically immediately began criticizing me, the way I dressed, my weight, the fact that I was wearing too much makeup, etc. I debated saying something, but decided to wait until they dug themselves into a deeper hole. So about 10 minutes pass and they go on from bad-mouthing me to talking about a man that one of them was seeing in excruciating detail. They were in the middle of debating about the size of his hands when the door jangled and they immediately shut up. The newcomer began talking to the worker, and I quickly realized it was her boss. So, having finished my coffee, I decided to go wreak a little petty revenge. I walked up and patted the boss on the shoulder. "I'm sorry to bother you, but I wanted to let your staff know that talking about someone when they think they can't understand is very rude." I then laid out to the boss exactly what I had overheard the 2 of them say, and had the joy of watching the server's face get paler and paler when she realized I had understood her perfectly the entire time. The boss looked pretty mad, and I get the feeling that after I left, she was in for a major dressing down. Petty? Yeah. Worth it? Definitely yeah. It's so rude when people talk about you. Like, just because you don't think someone's gonna understand, you shouldn't talk about people like that. I live in Israel, which has kind of strict religious dietary rules. It's not straight up illegal, and you can find non-kosher food, but it is difficult. Back when I was in elementary school, our homeroom teacher, I believe that's the American equivalent to what her job was, for 3rd and 4th grade was a total foodie, and she would take any excuse she could to host a special lunch or meal in the classroom. Everyone would bring something: plastic plates, cups, pita bread, hummus, drinks, etc. And the student with the top grade got to bring whatever they'd like. Since I was one smart cookie, I ended up the top student during the first month she held this classroom lunch, and also during some of the following months, but we each only got one time. So I got to pick what to bring. Originally, I considered bringing a board game I loved so my friends and I could play during the lunch. It was Talisman IIRC. But I knew it'd just get messed up and the pieces get lost, so I asked my mom to make one of her world-famous, to me at least, homemade pepperoni pizzas. Now, mixing dairy and meat isn't kosher in the least, but it was a secular school and I knew the teacher and most everyone else were secular as well, so I didn't think it'd be a problem. I was wrong. Because you see, it turns out one girl was religious and she had serious problems with my pepperoni pizza. She wasn't even from a religious home, she just decided to be religious as a fad. I doubt she's observant today. She made a total hissy fit only a 9-year-old who's convinced she's found her true calling in life could make, and said the pepperoni pizza was insulting to her. Since she couldn't eat it, it wasn't fair. I argued I didn't eat hummus, didn't like the taste, still don't, but I wasn't complaining about other people eating it. But she wasn't having it. She demanded that if she won't, eat the pizza, nobody should. Eventually, my homeroom teacher obliged and threw my mom's pizza in the freaking garbage can. That's when the seeds of revenge were planted. I wanted to ruin her meal just like she ruined mine. Luckily, she was one of the top students, so her day to pick what to bring to the classroom lunch wasn't too far away. I knew the best way to enact my salty umami revenge was to make her meal non-kosher, so she, and by extension everybody, couldn't eat it either, and I went for the most nuclear of non-kosher foods, shellfish. It's 3 or 4 months later, and we're having another classroom lunch. I had to bring paper cups for this one, but I also brought a packet of salted dried shrimp, which I bought a few weeks before in preparation from the East Asian aisle of a supermarket. In the last period before lunch, a pseudo-religious girl walks into the classroom with the ugliest tiramisu I've ever seen and an even uglier smug smile. It's dairy, even better. I doubt anybody would have wanted to eat it anyway, but certainly nobody would eat it after recess, when we all came back to find a new coating of crispy orange shrimps on top of the creamy mess that was her tiramisu. The girl was ticked, and the homeroom teacher was also angry in her own, more restrained way. The teacher demanded the person responsible step forward and confess. Nobody did, of course, since we were in the 3rd grade. My friends knew it was me, but they didn't tell on me. The homeroom teacher ended up throwing the tiramisu in the garbage because it was ruined, and the entire lunch was cancelled as a form of collective punishment. Most people blamed the teacher for being a fat, and some blamed the girl for not being cool with the prank and ruining everyone's fun. Nobody blamed the prankster. I understand having religious beliefs and stuff like that, but to say that because she doesn't want to eat it, no one else can, that's kind of stupid. So I can kind of understand where that's coming from. So that was our last post for today. If you enjoyed the video, please drop a like and let me know what you'd like to hear in the future. If you want to hear more from me, hit that subscribe button and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!